Imagine a Marine standing tall in his uniform at the airport. Suddenly, he is grabbed, pushed, and accused of robbery. Two city police officers don't even look at his official ID, simply calling him a liar while twisting his arms. The situation seemed completely desperate, but let me tell you, what happened next was something no one saw coming. First Sergeant Elias Vance had just stepped off the jetway into the terminal at Emerald City International Airport. His Marine Corps uniform was immaculate. His name was precisely embroidered on his chest. He was just back from an overseas deployment, and he simply wanted to give his mother a surprise before reporting to his next post. But as he walked through the terminal, the atmosphere shifted. People stared with suspicion, not respect. Officers whispered. A woman clutched her purse. Elias understood too well what that meant. He had seen that look before. When he reached baggage claim, two officers approached. Doyle, broad and confrontational, and Trent, tall and sharp-eyed. Doyle accused him of wearing a stolen uniform. Trent demanded he open his bag. Elias refused without probable cause, standing calm but firm. The officers escalated. Trent called him boy. Doyle ripped his bag open, scattering papers and uniforms on the floor. A crowd gathered. Phones recorded. A child watched in fear. Elias maintained his composure, stating he was a first sergeant. The officers ignored him and forced his arms behind his back. A veteran in the crowd spoke up, accusing the officers of profiling. The tension thickened. Trent radioed that Elias was resisting, though he was not. Then Captain Marcus Cole arrived, commanding immediate release. The officers hesitated but obeyed. Elias stood, adjusting his uniform, his dignity strained but unbroken. Captain Cole asked if he was all right. Elias answered calmly, but anger and hurt were buried beneath the surface. The crowd remained silent, waiting for what would follow. Cole turned to the officers, his voice controlled yet burning. He demanded an explanation. Doyle stammered, claiming they received a report about an impersonator. Cole asked if they confirmed identity before acting. They had not. Cole then addressed the crowd, acknowledging what they all saw. He made it clear that the Marine had been disrespected and unlawfully handled. Elias picked up his belongings, each item touched with care. The silence of the terminal felt heavy. The officers shifted, uncertain. Cole instructed them to submit incident reports for review. Doyle protested weakly, but Cole shut him down. Elias took a steady breath, holding back everything he wanted to say. He had faced enemies overseas, but this humiliation on home soil struck deeper than any wound. The veteran who had spoken up stepped closer, placing a steadying hand on Elias's shoulder. Their eyes met in quiet solidarity. Trent looked at the phone's recording and realized the situation had escalated beyond his control. He muttered under his breath, but the words were lost in the murmurs around them. Cole told Elias that he would personally ensure the situation was addressed. Elias nodded, thanking him, though inside he felt the weight of every stare, every assumption, every moment of doubt strangers had directed toward him. The terminal slowly resumed its noise, but the ripple of what had happened remained. Some bystanders approached to offer words of support, while others avoided eye contact. Elias gathered his papers carefully, refusing to let his hands shake. His mother had been waiting to see him, proud and joyful, unaware of what had occurred. He intended to keep it that way for now. But deep inside, a question burned about how many others had faced moments like this without witnesses, without cameras, without someone to step in. Cole placed a hand over his badge and assured him that internal investigation would begin immediately. Elias nodded once more, standing tall again. The story was not finished. The consequences had only begun to unfold. As Elias exited toward the pickup lane, he felt the memory of the officer's hands and the crowd's silence still hanging on him. The veteran walked beside him briefly, offering steady presence without needing many words. Elias focused on his breathing, on the simple act of standing upright. He knew there would be reports and inquiries, and he knew the officers would defend their actions. But he also knew what everyone in that terminal had seen. The moment was not over. It had simply moved forward with him, unresolved, waiting for whatever came next. He paused beneath the awning outside the terminal, adjusting his bag. The city moved as if nothing had happened. He knew he would soon need to speak and give an account. But he was not finished, and the story had not yet reached its end. The next step was coming, yet uncertain for everyone involved ahead. The muscles in Captain Cole's jaw tightened as he turned to Doyle and Trent and ordered them to his office, his command echoing across the terminal. The crowd, still energized from the confrontation, erupted into applause as the two officers walked away, pale and shaken. Elias let out a quiet breath, knowing the moment had shifted, but understanding it was far from finished. Soon after, in the operations room of the airport police department, the air was tense. Doyle and Trent sat rigidly in metal chairs, facing Captain Cole, who stood with arms crossed, and First Sergeant Elias Vance, who remained calm and composed despite the humiliation he had endured. The door opened, and Chief Alan Brooks entered, his expression unreadable. He asked for an explanation, but Captain Cole spoke before either officer could attempt to defend themselves, laying out the assault, the false accusations, and the attempted arrest without evidence. Brooks listened, then revealed he had already reviewed security footage that clearly showed Elias had done nothing wrong, and that the officers had acted out of bias, not duty. The officers tried to claim they were following procedure, but Brooks cut them off sharply, stating that not only had they humiliated a decorated Marine, they had lied in their report, a serious violation that could cost them their careers. Captain Cole further emphasized that neither officer had even bothered to check Elias's ID before attacking him, assuming guilt solely based on appearance. Brooks turned to Elias and offered a formal apology, but Elias responded that apologies alone were not enough. Consequences were necessary. Brooks agreed and suspended both officers without pay pending an internal investigation, adding that dismissal and badge removal were likely. Doyle protested, but Brooks silenced him by placing a file of previous complaints on the desk, showing a clear pattern of misconduct. Trent, tense with anger, claimed the punishment was unfair, prompting Captain Cole to confront him with the reality of what unfairness truly meant: being accused of stealing your own uniform, being slammed against a wall in public, and having your service disrespected. The room fell silent. Eventually, Doyle and Trent rose and moved toward the door defeated. Before they left, Elias called out to them, telling them that next time they saw a black man in uniform, they should show respect. The officers said nothing and left. The room remained still for a moment before Brooks and Cole addressed Elias, assuring him that the department would stand behind him. Elias thanked them, but also made clear that incidents like this continue to happen to people who looked like him, and true change required more than one reprimand. Cole acknowledged the long struggle ahead, but insisted that today had been a meaningful step. Elias retrieved his belongings and left the operations room, the weight of the day heavy but bearable. He knew the incident would circulate online, that discussions would spark, and that opinions would form. He also knew that many in the crowd had chosen to speak, to record, to refuse silence, and that mattered. As he walked out of the airport into the afternoon light, the air felt clearer. The humiliation, the anger, and the disbelief still lingered, but so did the dignity he refused to surrender. He had stood his ground. The bystanders had stood with him. The system, for once, had not turned away. The journey toward justice was long and complicated, but today, something shifted, even if only slightly. Elias continued toward the pickup lane, his steps steady, his resolve unbroken. He stepped outside where the air carried the distant sound of traffic and the hum of travelers coming and going. He paused, placing his bag down, letting his shoulders drop. His phone buzzed. It was a text from his mother asking if he had landed safely and if she should start driving to meet him. He smiled, responding that he would be home soon. He imagined her face when she opened the door and saw him standing there in uniform, safe and alive. That image alone steadied him. As he made his way outside, a few people from the terminal followed, wishing him well. One man approached, unsure, and then thanked him for his service. Elias nodded and accepted the words without ceremony. He did not wear the uniform for praise, but acknowledgement had meaning today. A rideshare driver pulled up, loading the bag into the trunk. As Elias sat inside, he looked at the airport doors closing behind him. The day had taken something out of him, but it had confirmed something he believed. Dignity must be protected, not given. The car began to move, and Elias allowed himself to exhale. The fight was not over, but he was not alone in it anymore today.